Students, in this module, you shall be able to know the meaning and nature of humor from positive psychological perspective, learn about the various components of humor, understand and evaluate various theoretical propositions on humor, apply humor to improve physical, mental and social health. Humor is an integral experience in everyday human life. It is universally found in all cultures and individuals, though in varying amounts. Although human life is full of strife and struggles, but we often experience humor when someone cracks a joke, shares a witty remark, or develops something that can create fun and bemuse our senses. Although humor is a new entrant in the positive psychology movement, but it has been discussed in detail by early philosophers, and a large number of researchers indicate positive sides of humor in enriching and making everyday human life lively. Humor is an emerging and interdisciplinary science that touches almost every area of academic psychology. According to Martin, the researchers in various areas of psychology like cognitive psychology, personality psychology, developmental psychology, biological psychology, etc. can shed light on various aspects of humor in different ways. For example, cognitive psychologists can help in identifying various processes like perception, attention and memory in the understanding and expression of humor. Similarly, a personality psychologist can help in the identification of traits and characteristics that underlie a humorous personality. Since the issue of humor touches many areas of psychology and other disciplines, hence, it has been understood and defined in various ways depending upon the perspective with which it has been looked at. When we look at the various definitions of humor, we find that humor has been defined as process, event as well as a behavior. Thus, a humorous act or event is something that instigates fun. As a process, humor could mean all these processes which lead to the perception of a situation as funny and humorous. There could be individual differences in this capacity. For example, same event may be perceived as an act of having different level of humorosity. Humor can be conceived as a quality of being amused, comic and light-hearted. Martin has cited the Oxford English Dictionary that defines humor as a quality of action, speech or writing which excites amusement, oddity, jocularity, facetiousness, comicality, fun. Further, it can be considered as the faculty of perceiving what is ludicrous or amusing, or of an expressing it in speech, writing or other composition, jocose imagination or treatment of a subject. According to psychologist Michael Godwish, the term humor can be used to describe a process initiated by a humorous stimulus like a joke or cartoon and terminating with some response indicative of an experienced pleasure such as a laughter. The cognitive way of looking at humor could be defining it as the tendency of particular cognitive responses to provoke laughter, physical reaction and provide amusement. Components of humor. According to Martin, from a psychological perspective, the humor process can be divided into four essential components, 1. A social context. 2. A cognitive perceptual process. 3. An emotional response. 4. A behavioral aspects. Social aspects of humor. We humans spend most of our lives in a social situation while interacting and communicating with others. According to Martin, the social context in which humor originates is one that of playfulness. He maintains that humor is essentially a way for people to interact in a playful manner. There are various factors that may promote playfulness in social situations. For example, the frequency of social interactions, social and demographic variables of people in action, their personality characteristics, etc. may play a very important role in promoting playfulness. Humour has considered humor essentially as a social phenomena. He has cited various theoretical discussions on humor like superiority theory, relief theory and incongruity. All of them he essentially considers sociological. A detailed discussion on these theories and other theories of humor will be given while discussing various theoretical aspects on humor. Cognitive perceptual aspects of humor. Apart from their social aspects, humor has a strong cognitive aspect as well. Most investigators would agree, however, that humor involves an idea, image, text or event that is in some sense incongruous, odd, unusual, unexpected, surprising or out of the ordinary. If we are unable to perceive and process the incoming information about a joke or a humorous incident, we would not be able to laugh at it. What is perceived witty, surprising or humorous could be affected by the capacities of our working memory. Giora, in his article on the cognitive aspects of jokes, has highlighted the impact of perceptual and cognitive process in development and effectiveness of humor. Further, he has considered surprise effect as one of the main ingredients of humor. According to him, funniness results when expectations were violated. We are not amused if we guess the joke. The element of surprise is necessary for the creation of humor. Paul McGee, in a study, investigated the relationship between children's level of cognitive functioning and their comprehension and appreciation of humor based on violation of cognitive expectancies. McGee found that the level of cognitive development was not significantly related to humor appreciation for either novelty or incongruity humor. However, an analysis of age differences indicated consistent significant increases in comprehension with increasing age for all humor stimuli. The various studies highlight the importance of novelty, incongruity in creating humor. Emotional aspects of humor. Humor generally creates a positive emotional response, generally in the form of a pleasant mood or experience, apart from bringing in other components into interplay. Researchers have shown that humor leads to the development and enhancement of positive mood and affect. Brain imaging and physiological studies show that humorous and comic cartoons activate the reward and pleasure center in the limbic system. Nakamura et al. Explored the role of amygdala in the process of humor appreciation and found that amygdala plays an important role in determining the relevance and optimality of humor. According to Nakamura, amygdala acts as a relevance detector for the humor stimuli. The cognitive theories of emotions state that we experience relevant emotions based on their appropriate cognitive appraisal. Similarly, we experience an emotional response when we consider the situation incongruous, funny, or amusing. However, when we study the existing research literature, we find that they overemphasize on the cognitive aspects of humor. Historically and philosophically, researchers have stressed upon the perceptual and cognitive elements underlying humor, often at the cost of emotional and social aspects. The behavioral aspects of humor. Humor is finally reflected in its behavioral aspects like smile or laughter. Depending upon the properties of stimuli or humor causing element like jokes, we may experience a mild smile of low intensity or a full-blown laughter of a very high intensity. The intensity of humor might not be reflected only from the facial features but also might extrapolate to the other bodily organs. For example, on a wonderful joke, you may feel like rolling on the floor or getting your belly blown away. Sometimes, these behavioral aspects of humor might act as a cue for inviting others to engage and indulge in playfulness. Apart from this, the behavioral aspects may play a therapeutic role by bringing positive mood, promoting social inclusion, developing or strengthening new and existing relations, creating new social connections, and bringing high energy and motivation at no cost. Theories of humor. Theories of humor have emerged from researchers in various disciplines like philosophy, sociology, psychology, and recently physiology. Classically, the theories of humor can be categorized into three parts. 1. Incongruity theory, 2. Superiority theory, and 3. Relief theory. All of these theories have philosophical roots and they have been discussed at length and breadth in various philosophical systems of the Western philosophy. All these theories have philosophical roots and they have been discussed at length and breadth in the various philosophical systems of Western philosophy. In the area of psychology, Freud's theory of humor was one of the original and foremost contribution to the theoretical explanation of humor. The Freud's theory was most popular in the 1950s and 1960s. However, it declined with the rise of cognitive revolution in 1970s. With the advent of computers and the development of information processing models, cognitive theories like incongruity theory became most popular during the 1970s. During the same time, a lot of developments in the area of physiological psychology and brain imaging techniques led researchers to discover for the physiological theories of humor, leading to the parallel development of cognitive and physiological theories. During the same time, in the 1970s, social psychologists elsewhere intensively studied the domain of human aggression and applied it to the development and understanding of humor. This led to the development of superiority theory of humor. The relief theory subsumes the overtones of old Freudian theory, according to which humor works as a reliever from the censoring event or phenomena. As previously stated so, far the issue of humor has been understood from the philosophical perspective, but the rise and strengthening of positive psychology movement has brought a fresh understanding to these theories from positive psychological perspective. These theories are briefly discussed as follows. Incongruity theory. According to the incongruity theory, all humor is based on the perception or recognition of incongruity, a contrast in reality and actual perception. Incongruity refers to the cognitive perceptual process essential to humor in which conflicting ideas and events or messages are combined. Incongruity is considered to be the basic process underlying all humorous expressions. Aristotle was one of the early believers of incongruity theory, along with other influential believers like Soren Kierkegaard and Immanuel Kant. Incongruity theory is closer to violation of expectations paradigm often discussed in modern psychology. According to it, humor is created in situations in which expectations and outcomes are different. So, if you wish to create humor, then according to incongruity theory, create a plot and offer twist to it. Remember, the last time you watched a comedy show or a movie, the unexpected plots and outcomes in the movie of Mr. Bean, Charlie Chaplin, or the Golmaal trilogy of Bollywood must have amused you. According to Smuts, the congruity theory is reigning theory of humor since it seems to account for most cases of perceived funniness. The theory is simple and easy to understand, and it can be applied to a wide variety of general humor. However, critics of the incongruity theory maintain that all the humor cannot be explained by the unexpectedness, twist, and violation of expectations. Now, the superiority theory. Another group of theories called superiority theory believe that humor results from a sense of superiority and high self-esteem. Also, people with high self-esteem use more and more humor. For example, if you notice a doctor and a patient in communication where the patient is seriously concerned about his or her disease or problem, so much so that it looks very grave and intimidating, then it is the doctor who cracks little humor to diffuse the gravity of concern of the patient. When a student feels threatened by nearing examination or class test for which he or she is not prepared and discusses his problem with his parent or teacher, then what people in superior position, parents or teachers do? They console, motivate, and if nothing works, create humor. The sense of superiority must not be confused with the casual attitude about the situation, like a careless friend suggesting not to worry about the examination at all and have fun. According to the 19th century philosopher Thomas Hobbes, humor originates when a superior person interacts with a weak or inferior person and experiences a sudden glory. In the words of Hobbes, the passion of laughter is nothing else but sudden glory arising from some sudden conception of some eminency in ourselves by comparison with the infirmity of others or with our own formally. Hobbes' version of superiority theory was probably the strongest version of superiority theory. It faces a danger of confounding a sense of superiority with arrogance and smirk. There are various variations of superiority theory offered by those scholars who completely do not agree with the view of Hobbes. One such variation is known as the inferiority theory given by Robert Solomon. According to Solomon, rather than stemming from a sense of sudden glory or superiority, humor can originate from a sense of self-deprecation, self-critical attitudes, or simply an attitude to take oneself not so seriously. According to Smuts, Solomon's inferiority theory of humor raises a central objection against the superiority theory, namely that a feeling of superiority is not necessary condition of humor. Relief theory. According to the relief theory, humor works as a relieving mechanism from the build-up tension, frustration, and anxiety. The relief theory is physiological and psychological in nature, in that it takes into account the influence of various physiological processes like the role of brain, especially brain organs, in dealing with emotions and neural chemistry on one hand, and catharsis of pent up feelings and emotions through humor on the other hand. For example, a person who is feeling very tense or nervous in front of public during a public speech can be relieved by and put at ease by the use of humor, either by himself or any other person in the party. If you are a student and preparing your presentation for the first time, and if you are feeling a bit nervous, then a good strategy could be to begin your presentation with a note of humor. According to classical psychoanalytic theory of Sigmund Freud, humor, like dreams, denote our repressed feelings and hidden desires. Freud laid the foundation of psychoanalytic theory of humor in his 1905 book Jokes and Their Relation to the Unconscious, and later in his journal article Humour in 1928. The psychoanalytic perspective maintains that our threatening impulses find an outlet in public in the form of humor. Freud offered a formal analysis of jokes that he called jokes work. As Freud perceived human beings mainly made up of threatening instincts and impulses which are censored by the society, a viable duct like humor is needed to find out socially acceptable ways to bring them outside. However, all types of jokes do not have sexual and instinctive overtones, so Freud make a distinction between innocent jokes and tendentious jokes. According to him, innocent jokes do not fulfill any deep psychological purposes or function. Such kinds of jokes may denote playfulness or wit. On the other hand, tentiousness joke serves the underlying deep psychological functioning by bringing the repressed feelings and sexual urges socially acceptable form. For example, the tendentiousness jokes contained aggression and hostility in a disguised manner. Like any other explanation offered by psychoanalytic theory, the creation of humor depends on interplay between the personality triads id, ego and superego, where the id wants to go on expressing its uncivilized urges that ego wants to rationalize and superego wants to censor. If superego is liberal, then the humor will be light, and if superego is harsh, then the humor will be sarcastic. Critics of psychoanalytical theory of humor have criticized it for the overuse of its classical and outdated ideas and painting every human picture of behavior with sexual and instinctive overtones. There is no denying to the fact that there is no dearth of jokes with sexual and aggressive overtones, but not all jokes fall into that category, as there is no methodological basis of Freudian psychoanalytical theory of jokes and humor, and the presence of sexual or aggressive pent-up feelings and emotions do not necessarily give rise to dirty or double meaning jokes. For example, cracking jokes, even dirty jokes, might not release sexual tension, rather they may increase it. On the other hand, humor could be sublime, relieving, and most important, entertaining. Humor relieves an individual mainly in two ways. One, by comforting the individual. Two, creating a supportive and a positive social niche around the individual. Based on the idea of Hobbes, humor can also be relieving because of his ability to create superiority feelings in the person in question. Else, of positive and appropriate use of humor wins audience supports and exudes confidence, which may lead to the improvement in performance further. Applications: role of humor in health and well-being. According to Martin, humor serves three main psychological purposes. 1. Provision of cognitive and social benefits of the positive emotion of mirth. 2. Using humor for social communication and influence. And 3. Tension relief and coping. So, humor brings us a large number of social and psychological benefits that can have important implications for personal and collective well-being. The popularity of laughter, medicine, or laughing therapy is a testimony that humor has an enriching impact on our lives, even if it is practiced deliberately and in a planned manner. This is an important point, as most of the theories of humor believe that it is the novelty of a situation or the presentation of facts that creates humor. Humor is contagious, and so its behavioral outcome is laughter. According to Smith and Siegel, humor offers us a range of physical, mental, and social benefits which is outlined in the table. According to Smith and Siegel, humor offers us a wide range of physical, mental, and social benefits, and these benefits are as such: physical benefits: boost immunity, lowers stress hormones, decreases pain, relaxes muscles, prevent heart diseases. Mental benefits: adds joy and zest to life, eases anxiety and fear, relieves stress, improves mood and enhances resilience. And social benefits: strengthens relationships, attracts the other, enhances teamwork, helps conflicts, promotes bonding. According to them, humor promotes mental health by dissolving distressing thoughts and emotions, by enabling us to relax and recharge, and bringing the needed change in our perspective. For example, humor can enable us to perceive a situation in a less threatening manner by diffusing the gravity of the threat or creating a psychological distance or distraction between person and situation. The fun and laughter brought by humor boosts our immune system, causing a decrease in stress hormone and increasing immune cells and infection fighting antibodies, thus improving overall resistance to the disease. Summary: humor can be used to describe a process initiated by a humorous stimulus like a joke or cartoon and terminating with some response indicating of an experienced pleasure such as laughter. There are four components of humor: 1. A social context. 2. A cognitive perceptual process. 3. An emotional response. And 4. Behavioral outcome. Humor serves three main psychological purposes. 1. Cognitive and social benefits of the positive emotion of mirth. 2. Uses of humor for social communication and influence. And 3. Tension relief and coping. The social context in which humor originates is one of playfulness. Humor is essentially a way for people to interact in a playful manner. Humor involves an idea, image, text, or event that is in some sense incongruous, odd, unusual, unexpected, surprising, or out of the ordinary. Researchers have shown that humor leads to the development and enhancement of positive mood and affect. The Freud's theory of humor was most popular in the 1950s and 1960s. However, it declined with the rise of cognitive revolution in 1970s. According to the classical psychoanalytical theory of Sigmund Freud, humor, like dreams, denote our free-pressed feelings and hidden desires. Freud made a distinction between innocent jokes and tendentious jokes. According to him, innocent jokes do not fulfill any deep psychological purposes or function. Such kind of jokes may denote playfulness or wit. On the other hand, tendentiousness jokes serve the underlying deep psychological functioning by bringing the repressed feelings and sexual urges socially acceptable form. According to the incongruity theory, all humor is based on the perception or recognition of incongruity, a contrast in reality and actual perception. Incongruity refers to the cognitive perceptual process essential to humor, in which conflicting ideas and events or messages are combined. According to the 17th century philosopher Thomas Hobbes, when a superior person interacts with a weak or inferior person and experiences a sudden glory leading to the development of humor. According to the inferiority theory, rather than a stemming from sense of sudden glory or superiority, humor can originate from a sense of self-deprecation, self-critical attitudes, or simply an attitude to take oneself not so seriously. According to the relief theory, humor works as a relieving mechanism from the build-up tension, frustration, and anxiety. Humor offers us a range of physical, mental, and social benefits.